Beneath Toronto's shimmering skyline and luxurious glass towers, a brutal truth festers in the shadows. We dive deep, infiltrating alleyways, shelters, and forgotten streets to uncover the hidden lives of veterans who once wore the uniform with pride. The air smells of damp concrete and cold neglect. You hear the shuffle of worn-out boots and the silent cries of dignity lost. How did those who served, who bled for their country, end up sleeping on the frozen sidewalks? In this eye-opening documentary, we strip away the city's polished surface to expose a crisis Toronto doesn't want you to see. Stay with us. The real story behind the medals starts now. Number 1. The reality of veteran homelessness. When we think of a veteran, we often picture medals gleaming under a proud sun, crisp uniforms, and parades filled with cheers. But here, in the heart of Canada's most vibrant city, another image emerges, far grimmer, far quieter. In Toronto, behind the towering condos and lively streets, many of those who once stood on the front lines for their country are now standing at the edge of survival. According to a government report published in early 2025, it is estimated that between 3,000 and 5,000 veterans experience homelessness in Canada each year. That staggering number accounts for approximately 8 to 11% of the entire homeless population across the country. In a land often praised for its social programs and support systems, this silent crisis forces us to ask, how did we get here? Zooming in on Toronto, the numbers paint an even more unsettling picture. Emergency shelters across the city report that on any given night, hundreds of beds are occupied by former service members. Places like the Good Shepherd Ministries and the Toronto Hostel Services have seen a consistent uptick over the past few years. The monthly shelter usage among veterans has risen by nearly 15% compared to pre-pandemic levels, based on municipal data gathered in late 2024. These statistics, however, only tell part of the story. Looking closer at the demographics, the faces behind these numbers reveal even more layers of complexity. Traditionally, the image of a homeless veteran might have been an older white male. While older men still make up a large portion of the community, a shift is happening quietly but steadily. More and more female veterans are finding themselves without stable housing, a reflection of the increasing role women have played in the armed forces over the past decades. In fact, as of 2025, women now represent roughly 15% of the Canadian veteran homeless population, up from just 8% a decade ago. And then there are the Indigenous veterans, men and women who answered the call to serve, often coming from communities already grappling with systemic inequalities. Today, Indigenous veterans are overrepresented among the homeless veteran population, making up nearly 20%, despite accounting for less than 5% of Canada's overall population. For them, the road from service to the streets is paved not just with personal struggles, but also with the heavy weight of historical injustice. But perhaps the most heartbreaking aspect of this crisis is what experts call hidden homelessness. Many veterans trained to be resilient and self-reliant avoid the formal shelter system altogether. Instead, they couch surf, sleep in cars, or find temporary refuge in abandoned buildings. They slip through the cracks unseen and uncounted. A study by the Canadian Observatory on Homelessness in 2025 estimates that for every veteran visibly homeless on the street, there are at least 2 more experiencing hidden homelessness, a reality that leaves them outside the reach of social services and public awareness. You might walk past them without even realizing a man quietly reading a tattered book in a subway station, a woman adjusting her heavy backpack on a park bench. There are no flags or banners announcing their service, only the invisible scars and the silent hope for a better day. It is important to recognize that veteran homelessness is not just about losing a home. It is about losing a sense of belonging, a mission, a purpose. It is about the trauma of coming home to a society that, for all its gratitude, often struggles to make room for those who have given so much. Number 2, from battlefield to homelessness. Leaving the battlefield should feel like a victory march, a homecoming. Yet for thousands of Canadian veterans, It is more like stepping into a silent war they never trained for. A war with no clear enemy, no medals, and no end in sight. One of the first battles they face is something many of us take for granted: reintegration. Transitioning from military life to civilian life is not just about trading uniforms for business suits. It means losing a tightly knit community, a clear sense of mission, and often even a piece of their identity. For years, every day had a purpose. Every step had meaning. Suddenly, they are dropped into a world where the rules are different, the mission's unclear, and the sense of belonging is at best fragile. Studies by Veterans Affairs Canada in 2025 show that nearly 60% of homeless veterans reported feeling isolated and disconnected from civilian society within the first year of discharge. Imagine giving everything you have, your youth, your health, your heart, only to come back to a society that feels like a foreign land. But isolation is just the beginning. Mental health struggles carve even deeper wounds. Post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, and crippling anxiety are common among veterans. According to the Canadian Institute for Military and Veteran Health Research, around 45% of veterans experiencing homelessness in 2025 have been diagnosed with some form of mental health disorder. And these are just the cases that have been officially recorded. The sad reality is that many veterans do not seek help. There is a silent stigma, a heavy chain that whispers to them, "You are supposed to be strong." So they suffer in silence, fighting invisible battles every single day. Nightmares, flashbacks, paranoia. These become their constant companions. In an attempt to quiet the noise, many turn to alcohol or drugs. It is not about chasing a high. It is about chasing an escape. Substance abuse becomes a desperate form of self-medication. A 2025 survey by Homeless Hub Canada found that over 68% of homeless veterans reported problems with substance use either currently or in the past. Alcohol is the most common crutch, but opioids and methamphetamines have also seen a sharp rise among this vulnerable population. Layered on top of these personal battles is the harsh reality of economics. Financial hardship hits like a tidal wave. Finding stable work is tough. Military skills do not always translate neatly into civilian jobs. In 2025, the unemployment rate among veterans experiencing homelessness stands at nearly 43%, compared to just 5% in the general Canadian population. Even those who do find jobs often end up in precarious, low-wage positions: security guards, seasonal laborers, gig workers, jobs with little stability, and even less health benefits. Meanwhile, the cost of living in cities like Toronto continues to climb. The average rent for a modest one-bedroom apartment in Toronto in 2025 is more than 2,000 Canadian dollars a month. For someone barely scraping by on minimum wage or part-time shifts, stable housing slips farther and farther out of reach. Adding salt to the wound is the critical shortage of affordable housing. The Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation reported in January 2025 that the country faces a shortfall of nearly 300,000 affordable housing units, with Toronto being among the hardest-hit cities. For veterans, especially those grappling with mental health issues or addiction, navigating the long wait lists and complicated application processes is often overwhelming. All these factors weave together into a brutal net isolation mental illness, substance use, financial instability, and lack of affordable housing trapping veterans and pulling them deeper into homelessness. It is a vicious cycle, and for many, it feels impossible to break. But behind every statistic there is a story. A man who once led a platoon now struggles to find a safe place to sleep. A woman who navigated foreign battlefields now battles her own mind in the dead of night. These are not just numbers. These are neighbors. These are heroes. Number 3, solutions and support programs. For far too long, the streets of Toronto, Vancouver, and cities across Canada have echoed with the footsteps of forgotten heroes. But today, finally, there is a growing wave of action, a surge of hope aimed at turning the tide. In 2023, the Canadian government launched the Veteran Homelessness Program, a bold national initiative designed to directly address the crisis, backed by a funding package of $106,800,000 Canadian dollars. This program does more than just hand out temporary shelter vouchers. It aims to create permanent housing solutions, provide mental health support, offer employment assistance, and guide veterans back into stable civilian life. The mission is clear, not just to put a roof over someone's head, but to help rebuild the foundation of a life with dignity and purpose. The results so far are promising. As of early 2025, more than 1,200 veterans have been placed into stable housing units through this program, according to data from the Department of Veterans Affairs. It is a good start, but with an estimated 4,000 veterans still facing homelessness each year, the journey is far from over. Thankfully, the government is not walking this path alone. Across the country, a network of passionate, tireless organizations is stepping up, each with its own piece of the puzzle. Take Veterans House Canada, for example, nestled in Ottawa. Veterans House is more than just a building, it is a community. Opened in 2021 and continuing to expand its model, it offers long-term supportive housing, tailored specifically for veterans. Each resident not only gets a safe, warm room, but also access to on-site mental health services, addiction support programs, and job readiness training. It is about healing the wounds you cannot always see, the ones carried in the heart and mind. Then there is Vets Canada, Veterans Emergency Transition Services, founded by a group of veterans themselves. Vets Canada operates on the front lines of this crisis. Their teams, often called rapid response units, work day and night to find veterans living in hidden homelessness, sleeping in cars, on couches, or in abandoned buildings. They provide emergency supplies, connect veterans to healthcare services, secure temporary housing, and help guide them toward longer-term solutions. In 2025 alone, Vets Canada reported assisting over 3,000 veterans nationwide, an increase of nearly 20% from the year before. But perhaps the most ambitious vision of all is the push toward what advocates call functional zero. Functional zero is not just a catchy slogan, it is a measurable goal, reaching a point where homelessness among veterans is rare, brief, and never recurring. Cities like London, Ontario, and Edmonton, Alberta have already made major strides. London, for instance, was officially recognized in 2024 as having achieved functional zero for veteran homelessness after placing its last chronically homeless veteran into stable housing and maintaining that status for over 6 months. What makes functional zero different is its philosophy that no one system alone can fix this. It demands collaboration between governments, nonprofits, health agencies, landlords, employers, and even regular citizens. It requires real-time data tracking, fast response teams, affordable housing pipelines, and above all, a refusal to accept that homelessness is inevitable. And yet, despite the progress, the road ahead remains steep. Rising housing costs, limited mental health resources, and the complex trauma many veterans carry mean that solutions must be flexible, compassionate, and long-term. A one-size-fits-all model will not work. Ending veteran homelessness requires treating every individual as exactly that, an individual with a unique story, unique needs, and unique hopes. At its heart, this movement is not just about policies or numbers. It is about restoring faith. Faith that a country does not turn its back on those who stood ready to sacrifice everything. Faith that we can build a society where a uniform does not lead to a life on the streets. The battle against veteran homelessness is not won yet, but today, fueled by determination, compassion, and a growing network of support. Hope is no longer a faint whisper on the wind. It is marching steady and strong toward a better future. Number 4. Forgotten voices of veterans. Behind every number, behind every headline, there is a human being, a face, a name, a story worth telling. And sometimes the saddest stories are the ones no one hears until it is too late. Take the story of Charles Connolly. Charles was a Canadian veteran who once wore the uniform with pride, who stood ready to give everything for his country. But in the end, he died alone, homeless, nameless to most, and tucked away in the city's shadowed corners. His passing might have gone unnoticed, just another invisible casualty of a broken system. But something unexpected happened. When news of his death surfaced, word spread quickly through social media and local news outlets, and when the day of his funeral arrived, something remarkable unfolded. Hundreds of strangers, people who had never met, Charles' people from every walk of life gathered to honor him. Men and women, old and young, stood shoulder to shoulder, heads bowed, flowers clutched in cold hands, bagpipes played, tears fell. It was a moment that captured both the cruelty of how he had lived and the deep, aching respect for the service he had given. Charles's story is not just a tragedy, it is a mirror held up to us all. It forces us to ask, why does it take death for a veteran to finally be seen? Sadly, Charles is not alone. Across Canada, thousands of veterans find themselves walking a similar path. According to a 2025 report by the Canadian Alliance to End Homelessness, an estimated 4,000 veterans experience homelessness each year, and many more live on the edge, struggling with unstable housing, health crises, and crushing isolation. Their journeys are heartbreaking, but each one is also a testament to resilience. Veterans like David, who served 2 tours overseas, only to return home to a world he barely recognized. Without the structure and brotherhood of military life, David spiraled into depression. He slept in his car for nearly 2 years, battling the cold winters of Toronto with little more than a threadbare blanket and fading hope. Or Maria, a former medic who helped save countless lives on the battlefield, but could not find anyone to help her. When she came back, Maria faced not only the trauma of war, but also the hidden wounds of military sexual harassment. A battle she fought alone in silence. Struggling with PTSD and chronic anxiety, she lost her job, then her apartment, and eventually her sense of self-worth. And then there is Elijah, an Indigenous veteran who returned to a country that for centuries had marginalized his people. After years of service, he was left navigating a civilian system that often felt just as hostile. Elijah faced systemic barriers at every turn, from job discrimination to lack of access to culturally sensitive health care, and found himself sleeping in shelters more nights than not. These stories are not outliers. They are the reality for far too many. A study conducted by Homeless Hub Canada in 2025 found that veterans are twice as likely as civilians to experience chronic homelessness, meaning long-term repeated episodes of living without stable housing. And even more alarming, almost 70% of homeless veterans reported struggling with at least one major mental health condition. What binds these stories together is not just hardship, but an overwhelming sense of invisibility. In a society that proudly waves the flag on Remembrance Day, too often, the sacrifices of veterans are forgotten the moment the parades end. Too often, their battles after service are met with bureaucracy, stigma, and silence. But the stories of Charles, David, Maria, and Elijah also reveal something else, a spark that refuses to die. Even in their darkest moments, these veterans fight for dignity, for healing, for a second chance. And communities are starting to notice. Following Charles Connolly's funeral, grassroots movements sprang up across Canada calling for more robust veteran support programs, better access to mental health care, and stronger protections against homelessness. It should not take a tragic headline to awaken our compassion. It should not take death for us to recognize the living heroes among us. As we move forward, let us remember behind every pair of tired boots, shuffling along the sidewalk, behind every weathered face waiting quietly at a shelter door, there is a story worth hearing, a life that deserves more than just survival. It deserves respect. It deserves a home. Number 5. Challenges and opportunities ahead. As we look ahead, the path toward ending veteran homelessness in Canada is filled with both steep challenges and incredible opportunities. It is a road full of sharp turns and uphill battles, but also bright horizons if we choose to walk it together. First, let us talk about the challenges because they are real and they are urgent. One of the biggest hurdles is the severe shortage of affordable housing, especially in cities like Toronto. According to the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation's latest report in 2025, Toronto now faces a deficit of more than 90,000 affordable rental units. Rent prices have skyrocketed, with the average cost of a one-bedroom apartment reaching over 2,300 Canadian dollars a month. For many veterans living on fixed incomes or struggling with unstable employment, finding a safe and affordable place to live feels like chasing a ghost. And even when housing is available, the support services designed to help veterans often fall painfully short. Current programs tend to be stretched thin, underfunded, or not fully tailored to the unique needs veterans carry with them, needs shaped by years of service, sacrifice, and trauma. As of 2025, only about 35% of veterans experiencing homelessness report receiving specialized mental health support, according to a survey by Veterans Affairs Canada. That leaves a staggering 2/3 trying to navigate complex civilian-focused systems that do not always understand the scars of war. Adding another layer to this storm is stigma. Despite growing awareness, the public often harbors outdated perceptions about homelessness and mental illness. Some people still cling to the false idea that homelessness is a personal failure, or that mental health struggles are a sign of weakness. This kind of thinking not only isolates veterans further, but makes it harder for them to seek the help they need. A recent national poll by the Angus Reid Institute showed that nearly 40% of Canadians still associate homelessness with personal bad choices rather than systemic failures. But here is where the story takes a hopeful turn, because alongside every challenge lies an opportunity waiting to be seized. First, there is a growing movement to strengthen partnerships across sectors. Governments, nonprofit organizations, and private businesses are starting to recognize that collaboration is not optional, it is essential. Innovative housing models like mixed-income developments and veteran-specific communities are gaining traction. For example, the Veterans Village project in Surrey, British Columbia, launched in late 2024, combines affordable housing with on-site health services, education, and job training opportunities, a model that could and should be replicated across the country. Secondly, workforce development is emerging as a powerful tool for change. Veterans bring skills that are highly valuable: leadership, teamwork, resilience, but often struggle to translate those into civilian careers. Targeted training programs like the Next Mission initiative, launched in 2025, focus on retraining veterans for in-demand fields such as renewable energy, healthcare, and technology. Giving veterans a clear, supported pathway to meaningful employment does not just stabilize individuals, it strengthens entire communities. And perhaps most crucial of all, there is a growing push to change hearts and minds. Education campaigns, community engagement efforts, and media storytelling are shining a light on the realities of veteran homelessness, humanizing the issue and breaking down harmful stereotypes. Schools are incorporating discussions about homelessness and mental health into curriculums. Cities are hosting stand-down events where homeless veterans can access services and reconnect with supportive networks. Step by step, the walls of misunderstanding are starting to crack. Of course, progress will not come overnight. There will be setbacks, there will be frustrations, but as the saying goes, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And every veteran who finds stable housing, every community that opens its arms, every person who chooses empathy over judgment, all of it matters. Ultimately, ending veteran homelessness is not just a policy goal. It is a moral obligation. It is about honoring the promises made to those who stood on guard for the rest of us. It is about ensuring that when someone takes off their uniform for the last time, they do not lose their dignity along with it. As we have seen throughout this journey, the brave men and women who once served their nation with courage and honor deserve more than just memories of their service. They deserve dignity. They deserve safety. They deserve a stable place to call home. The truth is, no veteran should ever have to face the cold streets alone. Ending veteran homelessness is not just a government responsibility, it is a shared mission for all of us. Every act of compassion, every voice raised, and every hand extended brings us one step closer to a future where no hero is left behind. If this story moved you, or if it opened your eyes to a reality you had not seen before, we invite you to be part of the change. Feel free to like this video, subscribe to NVL Travel Documentary, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice matters, and together, we can make a difference. Thank you for traveling with us today. Until next time, stay curious, stay compassionate, and keep exploring.